Hey gang, Bronco Carl 92 here. So for today's video I'm going to show you how to recalibrate a speedometer for different tire size on 92 to 96 Ford Broncos and F-series trucks. Okay, so Ford F-series trucks and Broncos that are built between 92 and 96, and actually 97 for the F-250 heavy-duty models, have electronic speedometers. And when you change tires to a larger size, your speedometer usually becomes slow. And of course that makes your odometer inaccurate and can affect things like transmission shifting and other things like that. So an easy way to recalibrate it is to go to Superlift and buy one of their modules that you can splice into the speed sensor wire and fake the signal out that goes to the speedometer. Or an even easier way, and a free way, is to actually just recalibrate it using the electronic function of the speedometer head, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Okay, my 1992 Bronco here is equipped with a 35-inch tire, and from the factory it was a 28-inch tall tire. And so as a result, the speedometer reads significantly slower now because the tires actually roll significantly slower going down the road due to the increased height. The slow speedometer is not such a big deal, but it actually does affect the way the transmission shifts, because the transmission thinks the truck is actually going slower than it really is. So it doesn't really get up into high gear, doesn't lock the converter up like it's supposed to, and it causes a bunch of other drivability issues. So what we do is there's an electronic function in the speedometer where you can actually go in there and read out your calibration number, and then you can actually adjust your calibration number. Now I believe that you can do this up to 6 times. So I'm basically going to show you how to do it. It's quite easy. There's a correction factor that you need to take into account depending on which vehicle you have. So if you have a half-ton with an 8.8, the correction factor is 0.0135. And if you have a 3/4 ton truck with a 10.25 diff, you use a correction factor of 0.015. And the difference between those two numbers is due to the fact that the 8.8 has a smaller tone wheel in the rear than a 10.25 does. It has less teeth. So the sensor on top of the differential reads the tone wheel generates the speed signal goes up to the speedometer. So try to think how to say this. Okay, so on a car that would have a mechanical speedometer, if you put bigger tires on, you change the gear on your speedometer on the end of your cable. But since this is electronic, all we need to do is just manipulate the correction factor. So the correction factor is that number I previously mentioned, so we're going to use the 8.8 as an example. So it's 0.0135, and you multiply that times the revolutions per mile of the tire. Now, my original tires turned 698 revolutions per mile, which would make a correction factor of 942. The tires that I have on the truck, which are larger, 35 inches, turn 587 revolutions per mile, according to the tire chart, which I'll get into that in a little bit. So my correction factor now is actually 792. So if you go on the internet, you can find many tire calculators. TireRack.com has them. A lot of performance websites have them. I think Summit Racing probably has one. And basically you punch in your tire size, and it computes out the revolutions per mile. So my tires are a 315 70 17. And like I said, it comes up with I believe I said 597 revs per mile. 587. So anyway, I don't want to confuse everybody too much, but anyhow, if you don't have access to a tire calculator, the other thing you can do is you can take tape, masking tape, wrap it around the tire, overlap the tape, and then cut the tape on the overlap and lay it out on the floor. Take a tape measure and measure the length of the tape, and that becomes your circumference. So if you divide the circumference into a mile broken down into inches, you'll get your revolutions per mile. So, anyhow, enough babbling. Let me show you how to do the correction. Okay, so here's our speedometer. Okay, we have two buttons here. We have the reset and we have the select. So to do this, first you want to read out your calibration factor. So you hold down the reset button and you switch the key on. The gauge proves out and it shows you E for English and 03. That's the software level. You hit the button again and it brings out 792 cal. So I actually recalibrated mine already, but in the next step I'll show you how to change the correction factor, and it's actually quite easy. So put you back on in a sec. Okay, for the next step you need to go to the dashboard on the passenger side, and right under the middle of the glove box you'll find a single pin connection over here. Okay, so basically you just pull that off and you see there's a single pin in there, and what you need to do is connect the jumper wire from this to a good ground. So let me just put you down for a second. Let me hook that up. Okay, so I basically just run a jump lead from there to a point on the chassis. Most of the dashboard's plastic, so you're going to maybe have a hard time finding the ground there, or you can go to the cigarette lighter. But anyhow, let me get you back to the speedometer and I'll show you the next step. So now we're going to make the adjustments. So button, and hit that again. So now our number is 792. I made the adjustment on this truck, and I gave it a try, and the speedometer actually seems to read just a tad fast now. So when I did the original calibration, the number that I came up with on my speedometer was 972. The calculation for the original sides tire was 942. So I'm going to assume that the 30 factor difference is probably to compensate for the tires growing. As they get up in speed, the tire casing actually gets a little bit larger. So anyhow, what we're going to do is we're actually going to adjust on my 792 now. We're going to add 30 to it. We're going to basically bring it up to 822. So to do that, you press the select button. And you'll notice the cal word is flashing. So once you input the number you want, you hit your reset button again and it locks it in. Switch the key off. And if you want to verify, then we're locked in. Now note, if that wire under the dashboard isn't properly grounded, you won't be able to make the adjustment with this knob over here. Also, if you start making an adjustment like this, for example, and you decide that you don't want to change it, you just switch the key off and it won't burn it in. And that's it. Okay, well, I hope that wasn't too confusing. If it was, please ask. Anyhow, as always, thanks for watching my videos, and we'll see you again soon, okay? Take care.